The night Kang Minho's world shattered, he stood alone in his penthouse, staring at the medical report that confirmed his worst fear. 3 years, 3 surgeries. Nothing worked. Then she walked into his private hospital wing, a black woman with curves that defied his carefully controlled world, asking the one question no one dared. Can I test it?
Can I?
4 impossible moments would follow. A touch that shouldn't have mattered. A jealousy that nearly destroyed him. A night that proved miracles existed. And a threat that forced him to choose between his empire and her life. Welcome to Afro-Korean Stories TV, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. The private wing of Seoul's most exclusive hospital existed in permanent twilight. Kang Minho preferred it that way. Shadows hid things. Scars, failures, the hollow space where his thing used to live. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, hands clasped behind his back, watching the city lights flicker like dying stars. Below, his empire thrived. The Kang family controlled half of Seoul's underground economy and all of its most lucrative legal ventures. Nightclubs, hotels, pharmaceuticals, construction. He controlled everything, except his own body. Mr. Kang, Dr. Lim entered without knocking. The privilege of a man who'd seen Minho at his most vulnerable. The new physical therapist is here. I didn't request one. Your mother did. Minho's jaw tightened. Of course she did. Lady Kang refused to accept that some things couldn't be fixed with money or connections. The accident 3 years ago had left him with injuries that went beyond broken bones. Nerve damage, surgical complications, a string of failed procedures that left him less than a man. Send her away. Him, actually. But there's been a scheduling conflict. Dr. Lim hesitated. His replacement just arrived. She's unconventional. I don't care if she's the Virgin Mary. Send her away. The door opened again. Minho turned, a cutting dismissal already forming on his lips. It died there. She stood in the doorway like she'd walked straight out of his forgotten dreams. A black woman with rich brown skin that seemed to glow even in the muted hospital lighting. Curves that made his breath catch. Natural hair pulled back from a face that combined strength and softness in equal measure. But it was her eyes that held him. Dark, assessing, unafraid. Mr. Kang. Her voice carried an American accent, smooth and confident. I'm Naomi Chen, your new physical therapist. I didn't hire you. No, your mother did. But I'm here now, so we might as well make the best of it. She walked into the room as if she owned it, setting down a professional bag. Dr. Lim briefed me on your case. Nerve damage from the accident. 3 failed surgeries. Loss of sexual function. Minho's hands clenched. Get out. Not yet. She turned to face him fully. I've worked with cases like yours before. The body has remarkable healing capacity when we've stopped fighting it and start listening. You don't know anything about my case. I know you've seen 12 specialists. I know you've tried every conventional treatment. I know you're standing here in the dark because you've given up. Her gaze didn't waver. I also know that nerve regeneration is possible with the right approach, but it requires trust. Something flickered in Minho's chest, something he'd buried 3 years ago. Hope hurt worse than despair. Trust. He moved closer, using his height and presence the way he always did, as a weapon. You walk into my space, presume to understand my body, my life, my... He stopped. The word caught in his throat. Inadequacy. Naomi didn't step back. If anything, she seemed to lean into his proximity. Your fear. Yes, I understand that too. The room contracted around them. Minho realized he was breathing harder than the moment warranted. She smelled like cocoa butter and something floral. Her presence filled spaces he'd thought permanently empty. 1 session, she said quietly. If you don't feel any different, I'll leave. But if there's even a chance—" She paused. "Don't you owe it to yourself to try?" Later that evening, Minho sat in his home office nursing whiskey he couldn't taste. His younger brother Ji-hoon sprawled in the opposite chair, watching him with barely concealed amusement. "Mother hired you a physical therapist?" "Don't start. Is she pretty?" Minho's silence was answer enough. Ji-hoon laughed. "Oh, this is perfect. The Ice King finally melts, and it's for someone Mother chose. The irony." "Nothing is melting. She's an employee." "An employee you're thinking about." Ji-hoon leaned forward. "Hyung, when's the last time you thought about any woman? When's the last time you felt anything?" The question landed like a blade between ribs. Minho set down his glass. "I feel plenty." Rage doesn't count. Neither does cold calculation. Ji-hoon's expression softened. "The accident took a lot from you, but it didn't take everything. Maybe it's time to remember that." The next morning, Naomi arrived at his penthouse at precisely 8 a.m. Minho's head of security, Tae-young, escorted her to the private gym with obvious reluctance. "Mr. Kang doesn't like strangers in his personal space," Tae-young warned. "Then it's good I won't be a stranger for long." She found Minho already there, dressed in fitted black athletic wear that showcased a body honed by discipline and controlled violence. Even damaged, he was devastating. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with predatory grace. "You came back," he said. "I said I would. People say many things. I'm not people." Naomi set down her bag. "We'll start with basic nerve stimulation exercises. I need you to lie down on the table." Minho's eyes narrowed. "I don't take orders. In this room, you do. Unless you want to stay broken." The word hung between them like a thrown gauntlet. Slowly, Minho moved to the table. "Lay down." The vulnerability of the position made his skin crawl. Naomi approached with professional confidence, but he saw the slight tremor in her hands. Good. She should be nervous. He was a dangerous man to touch. "I'm going to start with your lower back," she explained. "The nerves that control sexual function originate here. We need to wake them up." Her hand settled on his skin. Minho's entire body went rigid. "Breathe," she instructed. "I know it's uncomfortable, but tension makes everything worse." She worked in silence, strong fingers finding knots and pressure points with uncanny precision. Minho focused on the ceiling, trying to ignore the warmth spreading through his muscles, trying to ignore how long it had been since anyone touched him with care instead of pity. "You have incredibly dense muscle tissue," Naomi murmured. "You hold everything so tight. Do you ever let go?" "No." "Why not?" "Because the moment you let go, the world takes everything." Her hand stilled, then continued with renewed gentleness. "Or the moment you let go, you finally get to feel everything." The session lasted an hour. When it ended, Minho sat up slowly, disoriented by the strange looseness in his body, like someone had unknotted strings he didn't know were tangled. "Same time tomorrow," Naomi said, packing her equipment. "What if nothing changes?" She looked at him then, really looked, and he felt stripped bare under that gaze. What if everything does? That's what you're really afraid of, isn't it? A few days later, Minho attended a business dinner at one of his upscale hotels. The usual crowd: politicians, business partners, men who smiled while plotting his downfall. He moved through the evening with practiced ease, his reputation doing most of the work. Then he saw her. Naomi, seated at the bar in a deep blue dress that made his heart forget its rhythm. She was alone, nursing what looked like wine, her attention on her phone. What was she doing here? Minho dismissed his associate mid-sentence and crossed the room. He moved through the crowd like a blade through water, focused entirely on her. "Miss Chen." She looked up, surprise flickering across her face before settling into something more guarded. "Mr. Kang, I didn't expect to see you here." "I own the hotel." "Of course you do." A slight smile played at her lips. "I'm meeting a friend. He's running late." He. Something dark and possessive coiled in Minho's chest. A friend? Yes. Is that a problem? It shouldn't be. She was his physical therapist. Nothing more. The fact that he thought about her constantly, that her touch haunted him, that he found himself looking forward to their sessions with an intensity that bordered on obsession. None of that mattered. "No problem," he said evenly. A man approached. Then, tall, handsome in a casual way that irritated Minho immediately. "Naomi, sorry, I'm late. Traffic was murder." He kissed her cheek. Minho's vision tinted red. "Marcus, this is Kang Minho, one of my clients." Naomi's introduction was perfectly professional. "Mr. Kang, this is Marcus Webb. We went to graduate school together." Marcus extended a hand. "Nice to meet you, man. Naomi's told me about her work here. Sounds fascinating." Minho shook his hand, with precisely calculated pressure, enough to remind Marcus who he was dealing with. "Has she?" "Yeah, she's amazing at what she does. Best in the field." Marcus grinned at Naomi with easy affection. "We've been trying to coordinate schedules for months. Finally pinned her down." Pinned her down. "Enjoy your evening," Minho said abruptly. He turned and walked away before he did something he'd regret. Like breaking Marcus Webb's handsome face. Like pulling Naomi away from him and making it clear she belonged. She didn't belong to anyone, least of all him. The next morning, Minho was waiting when Naomi arrived. She took one look at his face and sighed. "You're angry." "I'm never angry." "You're terrifying when you lie." She set down her bag. "Let's talk about what's really bothering you." "Nothing is bothering me." "You saw me with Marcus last night, and you wanted to rip his head off." She crossed her arms. "Am I wrong?" The directness caught him off guard. Most people tiptoed around his moods. "You're my physical therapist. What you do outside these sessions is irrelevant." "Then why do you look like you haven't slept?" Because he'd spent the night imagining Marcus touching her, kissing her, taking her to bed, and giving her everything Minho couldn't. "Your personal life is none of my concern," he said coldly. "Good. Then this shouldn't bother you either." Naomi pulled out her phone, tapped a few times, then showed him the screen. "Marcus asked me to dinner next week. I said yes." Jealousy hit him like a physical blow. Minho crossed the space between them in 3 strides. He stopped just short of touching her, close enough to feel her warmth, to see her pupils dilate. "Don't," he said quietly. "Don't what?" "Date? Live my life?" Her voice held an edge. "You don't get to decide that." "I know." His hands fisted at his sides, the only outlet for what he was feeling. "But don't ask me to watch." Silence stretched between them. Minho. His name on her lips undid something in him. "What do you want from me?" "Everything." The word burned in his throat. He wanted her hands on him, wanted her voice in his ear. Wanted to bury himself so deep inside her that they forgot where one ended and the other began. Wanted things his body couldn't give. "Nothing," he forced out. "I want nothing." He left before she could call him a liar again. That afternoon, Minho's mother summoned him to the family estate. Lady Kang sat in her private sitting room, elegant and sharp as always. "I heard about the scene at the hotel." "There was no scene. You stalked your physical therapist like prey, then nearly assaulted her friend." His mother sipped her tea. "Subtle." Minho said nothing. "She's good for you," Lady Khan continued. "I've watched the footage from your sessions. You're different from her. Softer." "I'm not soft." "No, but you're healing, and that terrifies you." She set down her cup. Do you know why I hired her specifically? Because she's qualified. Because she doesn't fear you. Because she sees you as a man, not a monster or a king. His mother's gaze pierced through him. And because you deserve someone who makes you want to be whole again. By the end of the week, Minho made a decision. He would end the sessions, distance himself, protect them both from the impossible situation brewing between them. But when Naomi arrived that morning, she carried news that changed everything. "I've been reviewing your medical files," she said without preamble. "Your doctors missed something. The nerve damage isn't permanent. It's compressed. With the right procedure, we could restore function." Minho's heart stopped. "What?" "There's a surgeon in New York. She specializes in cases like yours. I spoke with her yesterday. She thinks she can help." Naomi's excitement was palpable. "Minho, you could get your life back." Hope flooded through him, painful and bright. "Why?" he asked hoarsely. "Why do you care so much?" She moved closer, close enough that he could count her eyelashes. "Because everyone deserves to feel whole. Because watching you suffer kills me." She paused. "And because when you touch me, even accidentally, I feel things I shouldn't. And I need to know if you feel them too." The confession hung in the air between them. Minho reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. His fingers brushed her cheek. Her skin was silk and fire. "I feel everything," he whispered. "That's the problem." Her hand covered his. "Then let me help you." "Let me!" The door burst open. Jihoon stood there, face grim. "Hyung, we have a situation. The Lee family knows about her." His eyes cut to Naomi. "They're calling it a weakness." Minho's blood turned to ice. In his world, weaknesses got people killed. Minho's hand dropped from Naomi's face. The warmth between them evaporated as reality crashed back in. "Get her out of here," he told Jihoon. His voice had gone flat, empty. The voice he used before violence. "Minho," Naomi started. "Now." Jihoon moved to escort her out, but Naomi stood her ground. "I'm not leaving until you explain what's happening." "The Lee family runs the Northern Territories," Minho said without looking at her. "They've been looking for leverage against me for years. Congratulations. You just became it." The words were designed to cut, to push her away, to save her. "So what?" Naomi's chin lifted. "You're going to hide me? Pretend I don't exist?" "I'm going to keep you alive." Finally, he met her eyes. "Do you understand what these people do? They don't negotiate. They don't compromise. They find what matters, and they destroy it." "Then maybe you should have thought about that before." She gestured between them. "Before whatever this is." "There is no this." The lie tasted like ash. "You're my physical therapist, nothing more." "You're a coward." The accusation hit harder than any blow. Minho watched her leave, Jihoon trailing behind, and felt something crack in his chest. Later that evening, Minho sat in his office with his inner circle. Tae-yang, Jihoon, his consigliere, Min-jun, all men who'd seen him at his best and worst. "The Lee family is testing boundaries," Min-jun reported. "They leaked photos of you and Miss Chen at the hotel. Nothing explicit, but enough to start rumors." "How many people know where she lives?" "Too many." Tae-yang pulled up surveillance footage on the large screen. "She has an apartment in Itaewon. Ground floor, single entrance, terrible security." Minho's jaw tightened. "Move her!" "Where?" "Here, the penthouse. Top floor." "My personal security team." Jihoon raised an eyebrow. "That will only confirm what the Lees suspect." "I don't care what they suspect. I care that she's safe." "And when she refuses?" Min-jun asked quietly. "Because she will refuse." Minho stood and walked to the window overlooking Seoul, his city, his kingdom. built on blood and calculated cruelty. What was one more act of control in service of protection? Then we don't give her a choice. The next morning, Naomi woke to find Minho in her apartment. She sat up fast, heart hammering. "How did you get in here?" "Your locks are pathetic." He stood by her window, hands in his pockets, looking simultaneously dangerous and exhausted. Like he hadn't slept either. "Pack your things. You're moving." "Excuse me. The Lee family knows where you live. This place is indefensible." His tone brooked no argument. "I have a secure location ready. You'll stay there until the situation is resolved." Naomi climbed out of bed, painfully aware she wore only a tank top and shorts. His gaze tracked the movement, then carefully looked away. "You can't just break into my home and dictate my life." "I can, and I am." He turned to face her fully. "Do you think this is a game? The Lees don't make threats. They make examples. And right now, you're the easiest way to hurt me. So this is about your pride. This is about keeping you breathing." Frustration cracked through his control. "Why can't you just trust me?" "Because trust requires honesty." She crossed her arms. "And you've done nothing but lie since Jehoon interrupted us yesterday." "I didn't lie. You said I was nothing to you. That was a lie." Minho's hands clenched. "What do you want me to say? That I think about you constantly? That your touch is the only thing that makes me feel human? That the thought of anyone hurting you makes me want to burn the world?" His voice dropped to something raw. "Would that change anything?" The confession stole her breath. "I'm broken, Naomi, in ways that matter. And you deserve someone whole. Someone like Marcus, who can give you everything I can't." She closed the distance between them. "I don't want Marcus. You should. Stop telling me what I should want." Her hand pressed against his chest, feeling his heart race. "I'm a grown woman. I make my own choices, and I choose." His phone buzzed. Once, twice. The third time he answered. Tae-young's voice carried through the speaker. "Sir, we have a situation at Miss Chen's clinic. Fire department is on scene." Naomi's face went pale. "What?" Minho was already moving, pulling her toward the door. "Get dressed. Now." The clinic where Naomi worked part-time was engulfed in flames when they arrived. Fire trucks surrounded the building, firefighters battling the blaze. Naomi jumped from Minho's car before it fully stopped, running toward the scene. Minho caught her around the waist, hauling her back against him. "Don't!" "My colleague, Dr. Park. She was supposed to be there this morning." Naomi struggled against his grip. "I need to know if she's okay." A firefighter approached. The building was empty. Someone called in a threat, and everyone evacuated before the fire started. Relief and horror warred on Naomi's face. This was deliberate. "A message," Minho said grimly. He looked at Tae-young. "The Lees. Lee Jin-woo was seen in the area an hour ago." Minho's expression went cold. "Dead. Get her to the penthouse. Full security detail. No one in or out without my approval." "And you?" Naomi asked. "I'm going to end this." She grabbed his arm. "Don't do something you'll regret." "I regret nothing when it comes to protecting what's mine." The possessive declaration hung between them. "Go with Tae-young. Please." The please undid her resistance. Minho arrived at Lee Jin-woo's office building with 5 men and murder in his heart. Jin-woo sat behind his desk, smug and stupid, clearly expecting threats and negotiations. He didn't expect Minho to drag him across the desk and slam him against the wall. "The clinic fire," Minho said quietly. "Your work." Jin-woo laughed, choking on it. "Just a warning. Wanted to see how fast you'd move for her. And now you know." Minho's hand tightened around the other man's throat. "What happens next?" "You can't kill me. My father would declare war." "I don't need to kill you." Minho leaned close. I just need to make you wish you were dead." He broke Jinwoo's nose with casual efficiency, then his jaw, left him bleeding on the floor of his own office. "Tell your father this," Minho said, straightening his cuffs. "Touch her again, threaten her again, even look at her wrong, and I'll dismantle your family piece by piece. I'll take your territories, your businesses, your reputation. I'll leave you with nothing but the memory of what you had." He walked out, leaving Jinwoo whimpering. Violence didn't solve everything, but it solved enough. By the time Minho returned to the penthouse, night had fallen. Abubo found Naomi standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring at the city lights. She'd changed into clothes Jahoon had arranged, simple jeans and a sweater that somehow made her look more vulnerable. "Did you kill him?" she asked without turning. "No." "Did you hurt him?" "Yes." She turned then, eyes searching his face. "Do you feel better?" "No." Minho poured himself a drink. "I feel like a monster who's contaminating something beautiful." "Stop it." Naomi crossed to him. "Stop pushing me away with this self-flagellation. I know who you are. What you are." "Do you?" He laughed bitterly. "I run an empire built on violence and fear. I've killed men, destroyed families. I'm going to hell, Naomi, and I'm taking anyone who gets close to me. Then maybe I want to burn." She took the glass from his hand and set it down. "Maybe I'm tired of being safe and careful. Maybe I want something real, even if it's terrifying." "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying." Her hand settled on his chest. "I'm saying I see you. All of you. The violence and the tenderness. The control and the chaos. And I'm not running. You should run. Make me." The challenge hung in the air between them, electric and dangerous. Minho's control fractured. He pulled her against him, one hand tangling in her hair, the other spanning her waist. Their foreheads touched. Their breath mingled. "I can't give you what a normal man could," he said hoarsely. "My body, your body is healing. I can feel it." Her hand pressed over his heart. "But even if it never fully heals, do you really think that matters? That I care about your body more than everything else you are? Most women would. I'm not most women." She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "And you know what? Let me test it." The words from their first meeting, a callback, a permission. "Naomi, let me test it," she repeated softly. "Let me show you that you're not as broken as you think." His hands shook, from want, from fear, from 3 years of believing himself less than a man. "Not here," he managed. "Not like this. I deserve you, however you come." Her lips brushed his jaw. "Trust me." So he did. Minho led her to his bedroom, a space of dark luxury, all clean lines and expensive simplicity. He'd never brought a woman here, never wanted to. This was his sanctuary, his prison. Now it was hers too. They undressed each other slowly, reverently, every revealed inch of skin a discovery. Naomi's curves made his hands ache with wanting, the softness of her belly, the fullness of her breasts, the strength in her thighs. "You're staring," she whispered. "I'm memorizing." His fingers traced her collarbone. "In case this is the only time." "It won't be." They fell into bed together, a tangle of limbs and breathless touches. Minho kissed her like a drowning man finding air. Desperate, consuming, reverent. She tasted like hope and heat and home. His hands mapped every curve, learning the sounds she made. The catch of her breath when he kissed her throat. The moan when his fingers found sensitive places. The way she arched into him like she couldn't get close enough. "Minho," she breathed against his mouth. Tell me. You. All of you." He hesitated, old fears rising. I don't know if I can. Her hand wrapped around him, and his world exploded into sensation. Heat, pressure, impossible awareness. 3 years of numbness evaporated under her touch. Oh God, he gasped. You can feel it. Wonder colored her voice. The nerve regeneration worked. Don't stop, he begged. Pride abandoned. Please don't stop. She didn't. What followed was careful and intense. Years of longing compressed into touches that felt like prayers. Minho moved over her, into her, feeling everything. Her warmth, her tightness, her acceptance of all his broken pieces. They found their rhythm together. Slow at first, then building to something devastating. Naomi's nails scored his back. His name fell from her lips like a benediction. When she shattered around him, he followed. The sensation so overwhelming he nearly wept. After, they lay tangled together, hearts still racing. You were never broken, Naomi whispered against his shoulder. Just healing. Minho pulled her closer, something fierce and terrifying settling in his chest. Love. He was in love with her, and that changed everything. The next morning, Minho woke to find Naomi watching him sleep. That's creepy, he murmured. That's romantic. She traced his jaw. How do you feel? Like I can breathe for the first time in years. He caught her hand, kissed her palm. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me. They stayed in bed longer than they should have, talking and touching and existing in a bubble that couldn't last. Reality always intruded. It came in the form of Ji-hoon's phone call. Hyung, we have a problem. Lee Jin-woo's father is calling for a meeting. He wants compensation for your attack on his son. Minho's expression hardened. Tell him to go to hell. He has leverage. Photos of you and Naomi. Not from the hotel. From yesterday. At her apartment. At the clinic. Ji-hoon paused. If you don't meet with him, he'll release them to the media. Your relationship will be public knowledge. Naomi sat up. Would that be so bad? In my world? Yes. Minho climbed from bed, already mentally preparing for war. It makes you a target, not just for the Lees, but for every enemy I've made. And I've made many. So we hide. No, he turned to face her. We end this. Permanently. Fear flickered across her face. What does that mean? It means I'm going to give Lee Sang-min a choice. Peace or destruction. Minho dressed quickly and efficiently. Stay here. Don't leave the penthouse. Don't answer the door for anyone but Tai Yang or Ji-hoon. Minho, he kissed her, hard and desperate. Trust me. One more time. Trust me. The meeting with Lee Sang-min took place in neutral territory, a private room at one of Seoul's oldest restaurants. Minho arrived with Ji-hoon and Min-jun. The elder Lee brought his son and 3 bodyguards. Jin-woo's face was a mess of bruises and surgical tape. Kang Minho. Lee Sang-min was everything his son wasn't. Intelligent, controlled, dangerous. You've made a serious mistake. Your son threatened someone under my protection. I responded appropriately. Appropriately? The older man laughed. You nearly killed him. If I wanted him dead, he would be. Minho sat with casual arrogance. This is your one warning. Stay away from Naomi Chen. Stay away from anyone connected to me, or I will end your family. Bold words. Lee Sang-min leaned forward. But we both know you're vulnerable now. You've fallen in love, Minho, and love makes men weak. Or it makes them willing to do anything. Minho's smile was cold. I've been building evidence against your operation for years. Trafficking routes, money laundering schemes, political bribes. Everything your father worked to hide, I've documented. One phone call, and I send it all to the prosecutor's office. The color drained from Lee Sang-min's face. You're bluffing. Am I? Minho slid a folder across the table. That's just a sample. I have enough to put you away for life. Your son, too. Your entire organization would collapse within a week. Silence stretched. What do you want? Lee Sang-min finally asked. Peace. A treaty. You stay in your territories. I stay in mine. And Naomi Chen becomes untouchable. Anyone who threatens her answers to both our families. That's it? That's it. Minho stood. Or I destroy you. Your choice. You have 24 hours to decide. He left without waiting for an answer. Back at the penthouse, Naomi paced like a caged animal. When Minho walked in, she launched herself at him, checking for injuries. I'm fine, he assured her. What happened? I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. Minho guided her to the couch and pulled her into his lap. It's over. You're safe. Just like that? Just like that. She searched his face. What did it cost you? Nothing that matters. A lie. It had cost him leverage he'd been building for years, future opportunities, potential alliances, but none of that mattered compared to keeping her alive. Minho. Her fingers traced his jaw. What happens now? Now? He kissed her softly. Now we figure out how to have a normal life. Do you even know how to do that? No. His smile was genuine, rare. But I'm willing to learn. For you. They sat in comfortable silence, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows. Everything felt possible. Perfect. But peace never lasted in Minho's world. It shattered 3 days later when Naomi disappeared. Minho knew something was wrong the moment he woke. The penthouse felt empty in a way that went beyond physical absence. He checked his phone. No messages from Naomi. He checked the security feed. She'd left at dawn, alone, despite explicit instructions to never go anywhere without protection. His blood turned cold. He called Tae Yang. Find her. Now. Sir, she took a car service to Incheon Airport. The bottom dropped out of Minho's world. What? She booked a flight to New York. Leaves in 3 hours. Minho was moving before conscious thought kicked in, throwing on clothes, grabbing keys. Jihoon appeared in the doorway, already dressed. I'm coming with you. They didn't speak during the drive. Minho's mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. She was running. She'd changed her mind. She'd realized what being with him actually meant, and decided she wanted no part of it. Or someone had taken her. That thought made his hands tighten on the steering wheel until his knuckles went white. They reached Incheon in record time. Minho bypassed normal security with phone calls and bribes, tracking Naomi to the international terminal. He found her sitting at a gate, head down, shoulders curved in defeat. She looked up as he approached. Her eyes were red-rimmed. How did you find me? I always find you? Minho stopped a few feet away, afraid if he got closer, he'd do something desperate. Why are you leaving? Because it's the right thing to do. Explain that logic. Naomi stood, wrapping her arms around herself. Last night, I got a call from Lee Sang-min. Minho's entire body went still. What did he say? That the treaty only holds if I disappear. That as long as I'm with you, you're vulnerable. That eventually someone will use me to destroy you. Her voice cracked. He was right, Minho. I'm a weakness you can't afford. That's not his decision to make. But it's mine. She moved closer, close enough to touch, but maintaining careful distance. I love you. I think I've loved you since you first tried to scare me away. And because I love you, I can't be the reason you lose everything you've built. Everything I've built means nothing without you. Don't say that. It's the truth. Minho closed the distance between them, cupping her face in his hands. You think I care about territory? Power? My reputation? His thumb brushed away a tear. I would burn it all to keep you safe. I would walk away from my entire empire if it meant you stayed. You don't mean that. I've never meant anything more. He rested his forehead against hers. Don't you understand? You didn't make me weak. You made me human again. You gave me something worth protecting beyond duty and legacy. Minho, Lee Sang-min lied to you. The treaty holds regardless of whether you stay or go. He just wanted to drive a wedge between us. Wanted to prove he could make you run. Minho's jaw clenched. And it almost worked. Naomi searched his eyes. You're sure? I'm sure. And even if I wasn't, even if keeping you meant war with every family and soul, I would choose you. Every time. He kissed her softly. Come home. I'm scared, she whispered. I'm scared of being the reason you get hurt. Scared that one day you'll resent me for it. The only thing that would make me resent you is if you got on that plane. He pulled back enough to meet her eyes. I'm not asking you to be fearless. I'm asking you to be brave enough to stay, to trust that I know what I'm doing, to believe that you're worth fighting for. Around them, other travelers moved through the terminal, oblivious to the life-altering conversation happening. An announcement echoed overhead about final boarding calls. Naomi looked at the departure board, then back at Minho. Okay, she said finally. Okay, I'll stay. Relief hit him so hard he nearly staggered. Instead, he pulled her into his arms, holding her like she might disappear if he loosened his grip. Thank you, he breathed into her hair. Thank you. They didn't go back to the penthouse immediately. Instead, Minho drove them to a private beach house on the coast, a property few people knew he owned. Somewhere, they could breathe without the weight of Seoul's underworld pressing down. Naomi stood on the deck overlooking the ocean, wrapped in one of his sweaters. The wind pulled at her hair. Minho came up behind her, arms encircling her waist. I used to come here after the accident, he said quietly. When the pain was too much, and I needed to remember the world was bigger than my failures. It's beautiful. So are you. He turned her to face him. I need to tell you something about that call from Lee Sang-min. Her expression shuddered slightly. What about it? He didn't just call you. He sent you photos. Minho pulled out his phone and showed her images that made her gasp. Pictures of them together. At the clinic, at his penthouse, intimate moments captured through telescopic lenses. He wanted you to see how exposed you were, how easily he could reach you. Why are you showing me this? Because I want you to understand what staying means. This won't be the last threat. There will be others who see you as leverage. Others who think hurting you will break me. His hands framed her face. I'm offering you a life that includes danger, guards, limited freedom, and I need you to choose it with open eyes. Naomi was quiet for a long moment, studying the photos. Then she took his phone and deleted them one by one. I choose you, she said simply. Danger and all. But I have conditions. Name them. I keep working. I won't be locked away like some princess in a tower. Agreed. With security. I won't lie to my family about who you are or what you do. That one was harder. Your family will never accept. Then we'll deal with that together. But I won't build our relationship on deception. Her gaze held his. Can you live with that? Minho thought about his carefully constructed walls, his reputation, the mask he wore for the world. Naomi was asking him to be vulnerable in ways that went beyond the physical. Yes, he said finally. I can live with that. One more thing. She stepped closer. When this settles down, when we have breathing room, I want you to meet that surgeon in New York. Not because I think you need fixing, but because you deserve every option, every chance at complete healing. And if the surgery doesn't work, Then we deal with that too. Together. She kissed him softly. I'm not going anywhere, Minho. Not anymore. The next week passed in cautious peace. Naomi returned to work at a new clinic, one of Minho's legitimate businesses, renovated with security that would make a bank jealous. Tae-young shadowed her everywhere, a constant presence she learned to ignore. Marcus called twice. Both times Naomi was honest. She was seeing someone serious. Marcus was disappointed but gracious, and they agreed to remain friends. Minho pretended the relief didn't show on his face. At night, they fell into rhythms that felt dangerously like domesticity. Cooking together in the penthouse kitchen. Naomi was reading medical journals, while Minho reviewed business reports, making love with increasing confidence as his body continued healing, nerve pathways reconnecting under her expert care. You're better than any surgeon, he told her one night, breathless and satisfied. I'm motivated. She traced patterns on his chest, very motivated. But the peace was temporary. It always was. The threat came from an unexpected direction. Minho's mother summoned them both to the family estate on a Saturday afternoon. Lady Kang sat in her formal receiving room, tea service laid out, expression unreadable. Sit, she instructed. They sat. Lady Kang studied Naomi with the intensity of a jeweler examining a diamond for flaws. You're the woman my son nearly started a war over. Mother, Minho started. I'm speaking. She didn't take her eyes off Naomi. Do you love him? Yes, Naomi answered without hesitation. Why? The question was designed to expose shallow motivations, money, status, power by association. Naomi seemed to understand that. Because he sees me, she said simply. Not as a conquest or a trophy or even a miracle worker. He sees me, my strength and my fear, my confidence and my doubt. And he chose me anyway, knowing I would complicate his life immeasurably. And you see him as what? A project? Something broken you can fix? I see him as a man who built walls to survive, then dared to let me through them. Naomi's voice was steady. I don't need to fix him. He was never as broken as he believed. Lady Kang's expression softened almost imperceptibly. The Kang family has expectations, traditions. My son's wife would be expected to uphold them. Wife? Naomi's eyes widened. Minho's hand found hers under the table. Mother, we haven't discussed. Then discuss it. Lady Kang poured tea with precise movements. Because the Kim family has made inquiries about a marriage alliance. Their daughter is accomplished, connected, and Korean. Everything tradition demands. Minho's jaw clenched. I'm not interested in the Kim daughter. But you're interested in a foreign woman, with no connections, no family legacy, no understanding of our world. It wasn't a question. Yes. Why? Because she makes me want to be better than the man you raised me to be. Minho's voice carried quiet steel. You built me into a weapon. She reminds me I'm human. Silence stretched. Finally, Lady Kang smiled. A real smile, warm and approving. Good answer. She turned to Naomi. My son's father was a monster. Brilliant, powerful, and utterly without conscience. I married him for duty, bore him sons for legacy, and never once felt what you two clearly share. She sipped her tea. I won't make him repeat my mistakes. If you want her, take her. But do it properly, publicly. Let everyone know she's untouchable. Minho exhaled. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Lady Kang's expression turned serious. The Kim family won't accept this rejection quietly, and there are others in our organization who see tradition as sacred. You'll face opposition. Let them oppose. Minho's hand tightened on Naomi's. I'm done living for other people's expectations. That evening, Minho took Naomi to the rooftop of his highest building. Seoul spread out below them, a glittering tapestry of light and shadow. "My mother is right," he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. "I should do this properly." Naomi's breath caught. "I've never believed in fairy tales," Minho continued, opening the box to reveal a ring, a deep blue sapphire surrounded by diamonds, unique and stunning. "I built my life on control and calculation. Love was something that happened to other people, weaker people." "Minho, then you walked into my hospital room and asked if you could test it." His smile was soft, vulnerable. "And you tested everything. My control, my walls, my belief that I was too broken to be loved." He took her hand. "Naomi Chen, you make me want to be the man you see when you look at me. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face. "Yes. Yes, of course, yes." He slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then kissed her like she was air and he'd been drowning. Behind them, the city hummed with life. His empire, his responsibility, his burden. But in his arms was his choice, his future, his salvation. The engagement announcement hit Seoul's elite society like a bomb. Within hours, Minho's phone exploded with calls, some congratulatory, most probing for weakness. The Kim family released a statement expressing disappointment. Several business partners requested meetings to discuss concerns. Minho ignored them all. What he couldn't ignore was the message that arrived 3 days later, delivered by courier to the penthouse. A single photo of Naomi leaving her clinic, crosshairs drawn over, her face in red ink. No words, no demands, just a threat. Minho stared at the image, something cold and lethal settling over him. Whoever sent this had made a fatal mistake. They'd reminded him exactly what he was capable of when someone threatened what he loved. "Taeyang," he said quietly into the phone. "Find out who sent this. I don't care how long it takes or what it costs. Find them. And when we do, then I remind Seoul why people fear the Kang family." He burned the photo, watching it curl and blacken. Some lessons needed to be taught in blood. The investigation took 48 hours. The answer, when it came, was both surprising and inevitable. It wasn't the Kim family, Taeyang reported. It was Park Min-seo, Minho's former second-in-command, a man he'd trusted for years before Park's ambition outgrew his loyalty. They'd parted ways violently 2 years ago, Park fleeing to Japan to avoid Minho's retribution. "He's back?" "He's been back for weeks, building alliances, spreading rumors that you've gone soft, that love has made you weak." Taeyang pulled up surveillance footage. "He's the one who told the Lees about Naomi in the first place. He's been orchestrating everything." Rage, white-hot and consuming, flooded through Minho. "Where is he? We're tracking him now." "But Minho," Taeyang hesitated. "He's not working alone. He has support from some of the old guard, people who think your engagement to Naomi is a betrayal of tradition." "How many?" "Enough to be a problem." Minho stood, already planning. "Call a meeting, everyone. I'm done playing defense." The meeting took place in one of Minho's private clubs, a room designed for exactly this purpose. Neutral ground where blood could be spilt without staining anything valuable. 30 men gathered, the core of the Kang organization, some loyal, some wavering, a few clearly aligned with Park's faction. Minho walked in with Naomi at his side. The statement was deliberate. She wore a deep red dress that hugged her curves, his ring prominent on her finger. Her head was high, her hand steady in his. To the men gathered, she was everything they feared. An outsider, a distraction, a weakness. To Minho, she was a strength personified. "Gentlemen," his voice carried absolute authority. "We're here because some of you believe I've grown weak, that love has made me vulnerable, that my engagement to this woman is a mistake that jeopardizes our organization. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Park Min-seo shares this belief, Minho continued. He's been working behind the scenes, building alliances, preparing to challenge my leadership. He paused. He sent a death threat to my fiancée 3 days ago. The room went silent. So let me be clear about something. Minho's gaze swept across every face. Naomi Chen is not my weakness. She's my line in the sand. Any man here who threatens her, questions her, or treats her with anything less than absolute respect, you're not just betraying me, you're ending your own life. You can't threaten us all, someone called from the back. I'm not threatening you. Minho smiled, cold and dangerous. I'm making you a promise. This organization has survived because we're stronger than our enemies, smarter than our rivals, and more ruthless when necessary. That hasn't changed. What has changed is that I now have something worth being ruthless for. He pulled Naomi closer. She stays. Anyone who can't accept that, leave now. Walk away with your life and your dignity. But stay, and you're choosing to stand with me. With us. And anyone who betrays that choice answers to me personally. No one moved. Good. Minho's expression shifted to something harder. Now, let's discuss Park Min-seo and how we're going to end him. The plan to neutralize Park Min-seo was efficient and brutal. Minho's intelligence network tracked him to a warehouse in Busan, where Park was meeting with potential allies from the Yakuza. A foolish move, bringing foreign elements into Korean territory without permission, was a death sentence in their world. Minho arrived with 20 men, Ji-hoon at his side. They moved through the warehouse like shadows, surrounding Park's meeting before anyone realized the trap had been sprung. Park looked up from his negotiations to find Minho standing in the doorway, backlit and terrifying. Minho. Park's smile was strained. I heard you might stop by. You threatened her. Minho's voice was conversational, which made it more dangerous. After everything, the warnings, the treaty, the very clear boundaries I established, you sent a death threat to my fiancée. I sent a reminder that you're not untouchable anymore. Park stood, gesturing to his Yakuza associates. And I'm not the only one who sees it. Seoul's underworld is watching you, Minho. Watching you make decisions with your heart instead of your head. My heart tells me to kill you slowly. My head tells me to make an example. Minho moved closer. Fortunately, both agree on the outcome. The Yakuza members reached for weapons. They didn't get far. Minho's men moved with practiced precision, disarming and subduing them within seconds. Park found himself on his knees, Ji-hoon's gun pressed to the back of his head. You could have walked away, Minho said quietly. 2 years ago, I let you live because we were friends once, because I believed in mercy. He crouched down to Park's level. But you came back. You targeted the woman I love. You forced my hand. So kill me. Park spat blood. Prove everyone right. Prove that love has made you a monster. Love didn't make me a monster. I was always this. Minho stood. But love gave me a reason to be merciful when I can afford it. He nodded to Ji-hoon. He lives, but he leaves Korea. Tonight. And if he ever sets foot in this country again, if he so much as thinks about Naomi, about me, about anyone in my organization, then I won't be merciful. Ji-hoon hauled Park to his feet. You're sure about this, Hyung? I'm sure. Minho turned away. Get him on a plane. And make sure our Yakuza friends understand that any future business in Korea goes through proper channels. As they left, Park called after him. She'll leave you eventually, when she realizes what you really are. Minho didn't turn around. She already knows what I am, and she chose me anyway. That's the difference between her and everyone else. When Minho returned to the penthouse hours later, dawn was breaking over Seoul. He expected to find Naomi asleep. Instead, She sat curled on the couch, still in the red dress from the meeting, clearly waiting. "It's done," he said simply. She stood, crossed to him, and took his face in her hands. "Are you hurt?" "No." "Did you?" "He's alive, on a plane to Singapore." Minho's arms came around her waist. "I let him live because you make me believe I can be better than my worst impulses. Or because you wanted to prove you're still in control." But she smiled when she said it, understanding him completely. "Either way, I'm glad you're home." They stood there, holding each other as the sun rose. Outside, Seoul woke to a new day. Inside, Minho felt something shift, a burden lifting, a future opening. "When do you want to get married?" he asked. "Are you asking because you want to, or because it's strategic?" "Both." He pulled back to look at her. "I want you bound to me in every way possible. Legally, socially, spiritually. I want the world to know you're mine. And yes, a wedding would solidify your position, make you untouchable, eliminate any remaining questions about my commitment." "So romantic," she teased. "I'm learning." His smile was soft. "But truly, Naomi, when?" She considered. "After you see the surgeon in New York, after we know all the options, after you've had time to heal completely, physically and emotionally." Her fingers traced his jaw. "I want you to marry me because you're whole, not because you're grateful." "I'm already whole. You made me that way. Then a few more months won't matter." She kissed him gently. "Besides, your mother will need time to plan. I suspect Korean weddings are complicated affairs." "You have no idea." 3 weeks later, they flew to New York. Dr. Sarah Chen, no relation to Naomi, though they joked about it, was a pioneering neurosurgeon who specialized in nerve regeneration. Her clinic occupied the top floor of a Manhattan medical building, all glass and clean lines. Mr. Kang, Dr. Chen was a small Chinese-American woman with sharp eyes and efficient movements. "I've reviewed your medical history. Naomi sent me everything. The good news is that the nerve regeneration you've experienced isn't a fluke. Your body is healing naturally. The surgery I'd perform would simply accelerate the process." "And the bad news?" Minho asked. "The surgery is complex, 6 hours minimum. Recovery would take months. And there's a 20% chance it won't improve your current function at all." She pulled up imaging on her computer. "That said, the 80% success rate is significant. Most of my patients report complete restoration of sensation and function." Minho looked at Naomi. She squeezed his hand. "What do you want to do?" she asked. "I want your opinion." "My opinion is that you're already healing, that your body is doing remarkable things on its own." She paused. "But if this surgery could give you complete peace of mind, if it could erase the last shadow of doubt, then it's worth considering." Dr. Chen interjected gently. "May I offer a perspective? In my experience, patients who pursue these surgeries for themselves, not for partners, not for pride, but for their own sense of wholeness, have the best outcomes, physically and emotionally." Minho was quiet for a long moment, processing. Finally, he said, "Schedule the surgery, not because I think I need it to be worthy of Naomi, but because I want every option for our future, for the family we'll build." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "Family? Did you think I'd stop at just marrying you?" He pulled her close. "I want everything with you. Marriage, children, growing old, all of it." Dr. Chen smiled. "Well then, let's make sure everything works perfectly. Surgery is scheduled for next month. Plan to stay in New York for at least 6 weeks post-op." They spent the rest of their New York trip acting like tourists, something neither had done in years. Walking through Central Park, eating street food, visiting museums. Naomi showed him her favorite spots from graduate school. Minho relaxed in ways his soul life never permitted. On their last night, they had dinner at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. "I could get used to this," Naomi said, watching the sunset paint the skyline gold. "Being anonymous, not worrying about security or threats or protocol. We could stay," Minho offered. "After the surgery, build a life here. I have legitimate business interests that could support us. We could be normal." She looked at him in surprise. "You'd leave Seoul? Your empire?" "I'd leave anything for you." He meant it. Seoul is power and legacy and duty. But you, your choice, your love, you're everything I never knew I needed. Minho. She reached across the table, lacing her fingers with his. "I won't ask you to give up who you are. The empire is part of you. The power, the control, even the danger. It shaped you. I fell in love with all of it. But I also fell in love with this version of you. The one who holds my hand in public, who laughs at stupid tourist traps, who doesn't constantly calculate angles and threats." She squeezed his hand. "Maybe we can find a balance. Keep the empire, but carve out space for us, for the family we want to build." "You're asking me to be two different men." "I'm asking you to be complete," she smiled. "The king and the man, the monster and the lover. All of it, integrated and whole." He raised her hand to his lips. "You make it sound possible." "Because it is. You've already started. Every time you choose me over duty, every time you show vulnerability, every time you let yourself feel, you're becoming more yourself, not less." The surgery took place on a crisp October morning. Minho went under anesthesia with Naomi's face as the last thing he saw. He woke 8 hours later to find her asleep in a chair beside his bed, still in the same clothes, clearly having never left. "Naomi," he croaked. She jolted awake, immediately at his side. "Hey, how do you feel?" "Like I was hit by a truck." He tried to sit up, winced. "Did it work?" "Dr. Chen says the surgery went perfectly, but it'll be weeks before we know the full extent of nerve regeneration." She brushed hair from his forehead. "For now, you need to rest. Stay with me." "I'm not going anywhere." She climbed carefully into the hospital bed beside him, mindful of his incisions and IV lines. They lay there together, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. "I love you," Minho said into the quiet. "I don't say it enough, but I love you more than power, more than legacy, more than my own life." "I know." She pressed a kiss to his chest. "I've always known." Recovery was slower and more frustrating than Minho anticipated. He was a man used to complete control over his body. Being weak, dependent, unable to do basic tasks without assistance, it grated. Naomi was patient and firm in equal measure. "You're healing," she reminded him when he threw a physical therapy session into chaos by pushing too hard. "Healing takes time. Stop trying to rush it." "I'm not used to being useless." "You're not useless. You're recovering." She handed him water and made him drink. "And even if you were useless, which you're not, I'd still love you. Your value to me isn't in what you can do. It's in who you are. And who am I? Mine." She kissed him softly. "You're mine." The possessive declaration made something warm bloom in his chest. By the end of 6 weeks, Minho had regained most of his mobility. Sensation was returning in waves, sometimes overwhelming, sometimes frustratingly absent. Dr. Chen assured him this was normal. Full recovery could take up to a year. "But the prognosis is excellent," she told them at the final checkup. "Everything is healing as expected. Give it time." They returned to Seoul in late November. The city welcomed them back with cold wind and heavy responsibilities. Minho's organization had functioned smoothly in his absence. Jihoon and Minjun had handled everything competently, but there were decisions only he could make. The first was about the wedding. Lady Kang had taken Naomi's few months timeline and run with it. planning an elaborate affair that would blend Korean tradition with accommodations for Naomi's American family. The guest list numbered in the hundreds. The venue was the family estate. The date was set for December 28th, just over a month away. "Is this too much?" Lady Kang asked Naomi during a planning session. "I'm told American weddings are simpler." "It's perfect." Naomi looked at the elaborate plans with genuine appreciation. "I want to honor your traditions. Minho's world is mine now, too." Minho, watching from across the room, felt that now familiar warmth. She could have demanded something smaller, more comfortable, more her. Instead, she embraced his culture, his family, his life. He crossed to her, pulled her aside. "You don't have to do all this. We could elope. Vegas, a courthouse. I don't need spectacles. But your family does. Your organization does." She touched his face. "This wedding isn't just about us. It's a statement, a consolidation of power, a signal to everyone watching that we're united, unshakable." Her smile turned mischievous. "Besides, I want the dress, and the ceremony, and to see you in a traditional hanbok, looking devastatingly handsome." "I'm always devastatingly handsome. And humble." She laughed, kissed him. "1 month. Then you're stuck with me forever. I'm counting on it." The next few weeks blurred together. Final fittings, guest confirmations, security arrangements. Naomi's parents flew in from California, her mother alternating between tears and excitement, her father sizing up Minho with protective skepticism. "You're the crime boss," Michael Chen said bluntly over dinner. "Dad," Naomi gasped. "I'm a businessman," Minho replied calmly. "Some of my business exists in gray areas, but I've never lied to your daughter about who I am or what I do. And you'll keep her safe? With my life." Michael studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "All right then. But hurt her, and I don't care how powerful you are. I'll find a way to make you regret it." Minho respected that. Understood. Naomi's mother, Patricia, was warmer. She pulled Minho aside later, took his hands in hers. "My daughter has never looked at anyone the way she looks at you. Whatever your world is, whatever dangers exist, she's chosen it with open eyes. And she's happy. That's all I can ask. I'll spend every day proving she made the right choice," Minho promised. 3 days before the wedding, a final threat emerged. The Kim family, still bitter about the broken marriage alliance, made one last play. They released information about Minho's organization to an investigative journalist. Nothing that would hold up in court, but enough to start uncomfortable questions. Enough to cast shadows over the wedding. Minho handled it with surgical precision. A phone call to the journalist's editor, reminding them who owned their parent company. A meeting with the Kim patriarch, where Minho made it clear this was their last warning. A press release from his legitimate business interests, announcing several charitable initiatives that would dominate the news cycle. By the time the wedding approached, the story had been buried. "You're scary when you want to be," Naomi observed. "Only when necessary." He pulled her into his arms. Nothing was going to ruin our wedding. Not the Kims, not the press, not anything. "My hero." She was teasing, but her eyes held real admiration. The night before the wedding, they stayed apart per tradition. Minho spent it with Ji-hoon and his closest men, drinking and reflecting. "You're really doing this," Ji-hoon said. "Marrying her, building a family, going legitimate." "I'm not going completely legitimate," Minho corrected. "But yes, I'm building something different. Something more." "She changed you." "She saved me." Minho looked at his brother. "I was dying, Ji-hoon. Maybe not physically anymore, but spiritually, emotionally. I was becoming the monster everyone feared. She reminded me I could be something else." "I'm happy for you, Hyung," Jihoon raised his glass. To love, and to the woman brave enough to love you back. They drank to that. December 28th dawned clear and cold. The Kang estate had been transformed into a winter wonderland. White flowers, crystal decorations, subtle lighting that made everything glow. Guests arrived throughout the morning, a mix of legitimate business associates, political figures, and carefully vetted members of Seoul's underworld. Minho stood in the traditional hanbok Naomi had wanted to see, feeling exposed and nervous in ways combat never made him. Jihoon stood beside him as best man, grinning. Nervous, terrified. Good. Means it matters. The ceremony music started. Guests rose, and then Naomi appeared. She wore a traditional hanbok in deep crimson and gold, the colors of passion and wealth. Her hair was styled in an elegant updo, her makeup highlighting her natural beauty. But it was her smile, radiant, certain, full of love, that made Minho's breath catch. She walked down the aisle on her father's arm, eyes locked on Minho's the entire time. When she reached him, Michael placed her hand in Minho's. "Take care of my girl," he whispered. "Always," Minho promised. The ceremony was a blend of traditions, Korean bows and tea ceremonies, mixed with American vows and ring exchanges. When it came time for Minho to speak, he abandoned the prepared remarks. "Naomi," he said, voice carrying across the silent crowd. "You walked into my life when I'd given up on living. You saw through every wall, every defense, every lie I told myself. You made me believe I was worth saving, worth loving." His hands tightened on hers. "I promised to spend every day proving I deserve the gift of you, to protect you, honor you, choose you above everything else. You're my heart, my home, my salvation." Tears streamed down Naomi's face as she spoke her vows. "Minho, you taught me that love isn't safe or easy. It's fierce and terrifying and worth every risk. You showed me that strength doesn't mean being vulnerable. It means being brave enough to let someone in. I choose you, your darkness and your light, your power and your gentleness, all of you, forever." When they were pronounced married, Minho kissed her like he'd been starving for it. The crowd erupted in applause, but he barely heard it. In that moment, there was only her, only them. Only this perfect, impossible love they'd built from broken pieces. The reception was lavish and long. They danced. They toasted. They greeted hundreds of guests. But through it all, Minho kept Naomi close, his hand at her waist, his attention never fully leaving her. Late in the evening, as the party continued around them, he pulled her into a quiet alcove. "Happy?" he asked. "Incredibly." She wrapped her arms around his neck. "You?" "More than I have any right to be." He kissed her forehead. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For staying when you should have run. For loving me when I barely loved myself." His voice roughened with emotion. "You saved my life, Naomi. We saved each other." She pulled back to look at him. "Now we get to build something beautiful. Together." 6 months later, Naomi stood in the bathroom of their penthouse, staring at the positive pregnancy test with shaking hands. They'd been trying since the wedding, but actually seeing confirmation made it real. Overwhelming. Perfect. She found Minho in his office, reviewing reports. He looked up when she entered, immediately reading her expression. "What's wrong?" She held up the test wordlessly. For a moment, he just stared. Then he was across the room, pulling her into his arms, holding her like she was something precious and fragile. "We're having a baby," he whispered. "We're having a baby," she confirmed. He pulled back, cupping her face, and she saw tears in his eyes. This man who never cried, who'd built an empire on ruthlessness and control. "I love you," he said hoarsely. I love you so much. I love you too. She kissed him softly. We're going to be okay. All three of us. That night, they lay in bed together, Minho's hand splayed across her still flat stomach. What if I'm a terrible father? He asked quietly. You won't be. How can you be sure? Because I've seen you love. I've seen you protect. I've seen you choose kindness when cruelty would be easier. She covered his hand with hers. You'll be an amazing father. I'll try. He kissed her shoulder. For you. For our child. I'll be better than what I came from. You already are. 2 years later, Minho sat on the floor of the nursery, their daughter Hana asleep on his chest. At 15 months old, she had Naomi's eyes and his stubbornness. She'd wrapped him around her tiny finger from the moment she was born. Naomi leaned against the doorframe, watching them with a soft smile. You're staring again, Minho murmured. Can you blame me? You're adorable with her. I'm not adorable. I'm terrifying. You're both. She crossed to them, settling beside him on the floor. Seoul's most feared crime boss, brought to his knees by a toddler. Former crime boss. Minho had been gradually transitioning to legitimate business, letting Jahoon handle more of the underground operations. I'm mostly legitimate now. Mostly. I kept a few things, for security purposes. Of course you did. She leaned against his shoulder. Any regrets? About what? This. Us. Choosing family over empire. Minho looked down at his sleeping daughter, then at his wife. I didn't choose family over empire. I chose to build a different kind of empire. One based on love instead of fear. He kissed Naomi gently. No regrets. Not a single one. Hana stirred, made a small sound, and settled back into sleep. She's perfect, Naomi whispered, like her mother. They sat there in the nursery, the city lights of Seoul glowing beyond the windows. Once, Minho had thought his empire was enough. That power and control could fill the empty spaces inside him. He'd been wrong. This, his wife in his arms, his daughter sleeping peacefully, the knowledge that he was loved not for his power, but despite it. This was everything. This was the real empire, the only one that mattered. Years ago, Naomi had walked into his hospital room and asked, "Can I test it?" She'd tested everything, his control, his walls, his belief that he was too broken to love or be loved. And in the testing, she'd proven something he never expected. That love was stronger than power. That vulnerability was braver than control. That being whole meant accepting all your broken pieces and letting someone love you anyway. Thank you, he whispered into her hair. For what? For testing it. For staying. For choosing me. He tightened his arms around his family. For giving me this. Naomi smiled against his shoulder. Best decision I ever made. Outside, Seoul hummed with life. Inside, the king of the city held his kingdom in his arms. And for the first time in his life, Kang Minho was truly, completely home.